My name is Layla Collins. I'm 29 years old, and for the past 18 months, I've been living what most people would call a writer's nightmare. 47 rejection letters from publishers, including 3 from the same company where my older brother Marcus works as a senior editor. What makes this particularly painful is that Marcus never once offered to help or even read my manuscript. Instead, he'd roll his eyes whenever I mentioned my writing, suggesting I get a real job, like our younger sister Emma, who works in marketing at a tech startup. The family dinners became exercises in humiliation, with Marcus and Emma exchanging knowing glances while I talked about my latest submission. They saw me as the dreamer, the impractical one who lived in a cramped studio apartment and worked part-time at a coffee shop to make ends meet. What they didn't know was that I owned that coffee shop, and the building it was in, and 3 other properties in the city. My grandmother had left me a substantial inheritance when I turned 25, but I'd kept it quiet, investing wisely while maintaining my modest lifestyle. I wanted to succeed as a writer on my own merit, not because of family money or connections. The inheritance wasn't just money. It included Grandma Rose's publishing company shares, a small but influential house called Meridian Press that she'd co-founded decades ago. I'd been watching from the shadows as they grew into a respected, mid-sized publisher, never revealing my connection. The irony wasn't lost on me that Meridian was one of the publishers who'd rejected my work, unaware that their mysterious silent partner was the same person whose manuscript they'd dismissed. The breaking point came during Emma's engagement party 6 months ago. The whole extended family was there, including our parents' friends from the publishing world. Marcus was holding court, bragging about his latest acquisitions, when Uncle Robert asked about my writing. "Oh, Layla's still playing with her little stories," Marcus said, not bothering to lower his voice. "She sent her book to everyone in town, even got rejected by that boutique place, Meridian Press." "At least 3 times, right, Layla?" Emma laughed, adding, "Maybe it's time to face reality. Not everyone can be a writer." The conversation moved on, but I felt something crystallize inside me. They thought they knew everything about my life, my prospects, my worth. They were about to learn how wrong they were, but not yet. I needed the perfect moment, the perfect setup where their assumptions would create their own downfall. Over the next several months, Marcus became increasingly condescending about my career choices. He'd started dating Sarah Chen, an ambitious literary agent, and together they formed a power couple in the publishing scene. At family gatherings, they'd discuss industry gossip and deals while pointedly excluding me from conversations. "You wouldn't understand the business side," Marcus would say when I tried to contribute. Sarah was worse, treating me like an amusing curiosity. "It's so cute that you're still trying," she'd say with fake sweetness. "Most people realize by your age that writing isn't going to work out." Emma had gotten worse too, emboldened by her engagement to Derek, a finance guy who looked at me like I was something he'd scrape off his shoe. They'd all developed this habit of talking about me in the third person when I was right there, discussing my situation and making suggestions about career changes I should consider. The assumptions about my financial situation became more pointed and cruel. Marcus started making comments about how I should accept help from the family, offering to ask his friends if there were any entry-level positions available. Emma suggested I could probably get a job at Derek's firm. Nothing fancy, maybe administrative work. They'd begun treating me like a charity case, someone who needed their intervention and guidance. At Christmas dinner, Dad actually slipped me an envelope with money, whispering that I shouldn't be too proud to accept family help. The gesture was kind but unnecessary, and it stung to realize that even my parents saw me as struggling. Marcus had convinced everyone that my writing was a dead-end hobby, that I was deluding myself about my prospects. Sarah had started bringing it up at social events, introducing me to people as Marcus's aspiring writer's sister, with emphasis on the aspiring part. The perfect setup came when Marcus announced he was throwing a housewarming party for his new apartment. He'd invited everyone who was anyone in the local publishing scene, including several editors from major houses and, ironically, the current CEO of Meridian Press, James Morrison. Marcus was particularly excited about this connection, as he'd been trying to get James's attention for months. This could be the networking opportunity of a lifetime, he told Sarah, not realizing I was listening from the kitchen. That's when Sarah had her brilliant idea. You know what would be fun? We should ask Layla to bring her manuscript. Maybe someone will finally tell her honestly why it's not working. Marcus loved this plan, seeing it as a way to finally put my delusions to rest in front of industry professionals. They approached me with fake concern, suggesting that getting direct feedback from real editors might help me move forward. In my career, I agreed to bring my manuscript, watching them exchange satisfied glances. They thought they were setting up an intervention, a moment where industry professionals would gently crush my dreams and I'd finally accept reality. Emma was particularly excited about this plan, already composing the story she'd tell her friends about how they'd helped me face facts about my writing. Derek suggested they might even live stream it for social media, as a learning moment for other aspiring writers. The cruelty of their plan was breathtaking, but I remained calm and agreeable. Let them think they were orchestrating my humiliation. Let them invite James Morrison and watch him react to my manuscript. Let them create the exact conditions that would expose everything they thought they knew about me. I spent the week before the party making sure everything was in place, including a call to James to hint that something interesting might happen at Marcus's event. The night of the party arrived, and Marcus's apartment was packed with publishing professionals, literary agents, and writers. Marcus and Sarah played the perfect hosts, introducing people and facilitating conversations about deals and trends. I arrived fashionably late, manuscript in hand, wearing a simple black dress that made me look appropriately humble and hopeful. Emma immediately swooped in, loudly announcing to nearby guests that her struggling writer sister had brought her book for feedback. The word spread quickly through the crowd, and soon I found myself surrounded by a circle of industry professionals, all waiting to witness what they assumed would be a learning moment. Marcus stepped forward with theatrical concern, explaining how the family wanted to help me understand the realities of publishing. Sarah nodded sympathetically, adding that sometimes the kindest thing was honest feedback, even if it was difficult to hear. James Morrison approached the circle, and Marcus practically glowed with excitement at impressing this industry heavyweight. "James, I'd like you to meet my sister Layla," Marcus said. "She's been working on a novel, and we thought maybe you could offer some perspective." James took the manuscript with a slight smile, but his expression changed as he read the title page. His eyes widened as he flipped through a few pages, recognizing not just the work, but understanding exactly who I was. The crowd had grown larger, sensing drama, and Marcus was basking in the attention. "Now, Layla," Marcus said in his most condescending voice, "you need to be prepared for honest feedback. James runs one of the most respected independent publishers in the city." That's when James looked up with barely contained amusement and said, "Actually, Marcus, I think there's something you should know about your sister's manuscript." "We've already acquired this book," James announced to the stunned circle. "It's going to be our lead title for spring publication, and early reviews are calling it groundbreaking." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus's face went through several color changes, while Sarah looked like she'd been slapped. But James wasn't finished. "In fact," he continued with growing amusement, "I should probably mention that Layla Collins is one of our primary shareholders." She's been part of Meridian Press leadership for years. Emma's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on Marcus's hardwood floor. The crowd of publishing professionals began murmuring excitedly, suddenly seeing me in an entirely different light. "The L.C. Collins who inherited Rose Meridian's stake?" someone whispered. "She's been funding some of our biggest acquisitions," James confirmed. "Layla, perhaps you'd like to tell your family about the Hollywood deal we just closed for the film rights." The aftermath was swift and merciless. Marcus stood frozen as the industry professionals who'd been ready to dismiss me suddenly surrounded me with congratulations and business cards. Sarah, realizing she'd just insulted a major player in the industry, tried to backtrack with stammering apologies that only made things worse. Emma grabbed Derek's arm, whispering urgently about damage control, but it was too late. Word was already spreading through social media about the publishing heiress who'd been hiding in plain sight. Marcus's carefully cultivated network began asking pointed questions about how he could have been so unaware of his own sister's success and connections. Several editors mentioned being interested in manuscripts Marcus had submitted, but now they were wondering about his judgment and family dynamics. Sarah's agency partnerships suddenly seemed less attractive when clients realized she'd publicly insulted someone with significant industry influence. The professional consequences rippled outward over the following weeks. Marcus's reputation took a hit as people questioned his industry awareness and family loyalty. Sarah lost two major clients who didn't want to be associated with someone who'd shown such poor judgment. Emma's social media following noticed the shift, asking why she'd been so dismissive of her successful sister's career. Derek's firm, sensitive to public image, had quiet conversations with him about family drama affecting professional relationships. But the personal cost was even higher. Family dinners became tense affairs where nobody knew quite what to say. Dad apologized for the money envelope, realizing I'd been financially secure all along. Mom called repeatedly, trying to understand why I'd kept my success secret and whether I could help repair Marcus's damaged reputation. The dynamic had shifted completely. They now saw me as someone with power and influence, not the struggling dreamer they'd patronized for. Months. 6 months later, my book hit the New York Times bestseller list. Marcus called that morning, his voice carefully neutral as he congratulated me and mentioned that his publisher was interested in discussing my next project. Sarah had been more direct, sending a formal apology along with a proposal to represent my future work. Emma posted constantly about her successful author sister, rewriting history to make herself seem supportive. But the relationships had fundamentally changed. Trust, once broken by their assumptions and cruelty, couldn't be easily rebuilt with congratulations and business proposals. I was polite but distant, maintaining family obligations while keeping my professional life separate. The coffee shop I'd worked at became a boutique bookstore featuring local authors, and I hired some of the staff who'd been kind to me during my struggling period. They'd learned that appearances could be deceiving, that quiet people might have hidden depths, and that family support should never be conditional on perceived success. The irony wasn't lost on me that my revenge had been their own making. I hadn't orchestrated their humiliation. They'd created the perfect conditions themselves with their assumptions, their cruelty, and their public attempt to crush my dreams. All I'd done was exist authentically, pursue my passion, and wait for the right moment to reveal the truth. The book's success validated not just my writing, but my choice to succeed on my own terms rather than riding on family connections or inherited wealth. Marcus still worked in publishing, but his influence had diminished as people remembered his poor judgment. Sarah's agency survived, but never fully recovered its previous prestige. Emma and Derek's relationship survived, but they learned to be more careful about dismissing people they didn't fully understand. As for me, I was exactly where I'd always planned to be, a successful author whose work spoke for itself, surrounded by people who valued me for my talent rather than my bank account.